So next up, we all think chefs are the rock stars, you know, they get all the media hype and all that sort of thing. But the most important thing to a restaurant is front of house. They're the first person to meet the guest, the last person to say goodbye to the guest. Now, we are very lucky to have one of the best in the business working in one of the best restaurants in the country. She's an incredible talent. There's many, I've got a list to read, but I'm not going to read about it because she's going to tell us everything about herself. Please welcome Kylie Javier Ashton. Thank you. How are you? Thank you. I mean, there's so many things to talk about with you. You've been nominated for Gourmet Traveller Maitre d' of the Year in 2018, awarded Restaurant Manager of the Year in the inaugural Woman in Food Service Awards in 27. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And recently I went to Momofuku Sibo, where you work, expecting to see you on the floor, but you're in your bloody chef's whites cooking in the restaurant, plating the food up. I mean, that's, I thought that's pretty amazing that because of our business, how it works, you need to really understand everything in a restaurant from kitchen to front of house. So tell me what got you inspired or into the industry first?
I've always loved food. I mean, I can cook, but I was never really drawn to being a chef as a career. I actually, when I left school, studied performing arts because I just loved to entertain people and show people a great time. And so that sort of seemed like the natural career path. I didn't really know that hospitality could take you there when I was at school. So that's what I pursued when I first left school. As any struggling actor does, I started working in hospitality. So first started in bars, and then I landed a job at Tetsuya's, which at the time was, and still is, one of the best restaurants in the country.
Just before Tetsuya's, how old were you, if you don't mind asking, when you got into the bar work and the hospitality business?
I was about 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was still sort of studying, and then I thought, okay, I'll go take a trip overseas. I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
Probably like most of everyone in the room, I guess.
Yeah, look, I think that like the regular career paths didn't really appeal to me. I think at one point I toyed with maybe being a lawyer, then realised very quickly that was not that fun. And so I kind of just went through, you know, do I want to be an accountant? Do I want to be a lawyer? Do I want to be a doctor? Like, nothing really appealed to me. I loved drama at school. So I thought, okay, well, that seems fun. And so went on to doing performing arts, then ended up in bars and really had a great time. I think that the thing that I loved about hospitality was that it's a lifestyle in itself. You're often part of people's best times in their lives, their birthdays, their anniversaries. And so when I started working in restaurants, I was just opened up to this world that kind of made all of the things that I love collide, which was taking care of people. I was around delicious food all the time. I felt like every night was a performance. And I was allowed to be myself, which is, I think, the thing that I loved about it the most. So I continued with that and eventually worked my way through hospitality, and
So did the, you know, our hours, and especially front of house, can be very unsociable, you know? All your mates are out going to parties and nightclubs or whatever.
Yeah.
Did that bother you when in your younger early days?
No, because I'm not really a morning person, or wasn't. So I think, you know, we talk about these unsociable hours, but that's based on 9 to 5. If you want to sit at a desk and like that appeals to you, like great, but that does not sound like a fun time to me, and never has. So the fact that I could get up at like 10:30 in the morning and not be late for work and go have a coffee and start my day, and then at 2 o'clock I would, you know, then start work. By that stage I was awake. So for me it wasn't unsociable at all, and to be honest, the thing that I love the most about hospitality is the people that I've met along the way. You form these incredible friendships. I love being a part of a team. It's sort of innate in me. I've always loved working with other people. I love team sports. So everything like that just gelled. And some of my best friends are in hospitality. And so you get to go to work and have fun with your friends. So whilst it might be unsociable for people who are working in a 9 to 5, for me, it was an incredibly sociable career in general. You know, you wake up late, you can go for a drink after work if you wanted to, and then, you know, start the day slowly, then you get to see your friends at work. So, you know, I think if anything, I experienced quite the opposite, where I felt like it was the whole thing was super sociable.
Yeah, it's great fun. So how did you get to work in one of the best restaurants in the country, Tetsuya's, as you said before? How does that happen? I mean, that wouldn't have been an easy job to get, I'd imagine.
No, and I don't really know how I got that job either.
How old were you, if you don't mind me asking?
I was probably, I think I was like 22 or 23, and I was probably
incredible.
one of the youngest people that they hired at the time for the front of house.
Yeah.
Because most people had been there like quite a few years and had a long career in hospitality.
So was it luck? Did you just knock on the door,
It was
write
luck.
a letter?
I actually thought, when I was working in bars, I was helping out doing the admin side, doing reservations, and I thought, oh, I probably should try to get a real job and not work at night. And I saw an ad in the paper for the reservations assistant at Tetsuya's. So I thought, okay, that kind of encompasses what I love doing, which is working around food and drinks, but it's sort of during the day, so it kind of bridges that gap. So I went for the interview, and Vicky Wild, who was the GM of Tetsuya's at the time, interviewed me, and she was just like, you're overqualified, you know, you've worked in hospitality. And she said, to be honest, the pay's not that great, but we have a job in the restaurant, and you would start at the bottom, you could be a cashier, you'd work service, but you would take home in tips more than what we could offer you in a salary as a restaurant reservations assistant. And I was like, really? So I went...
Just on money, was money a driving force for you to get into the industry?
No, not at all. But I also realised that it was a great way to earn a living. And I think that that's something that people don't really talk about, that they're well-paid jobs. In Australia particularly, we get paid properly. And so to work front of house, including tips, like you can earn a really decent wage. And that's what I realised at Tetsuya's. So I went for a trial and I got the job, and slowly I worked my way through all the different parts of the restaurant. So I started as a cashier. I literally just cashed. This is when everything was done manually and we had to type in all the bills. That's how old I am. So I did that and cashed off all the bills, and then I started being a food runner. Then they taught me how to be a section waiter. I was the bartender there at one stage. And then, you know, I was just so immersed in this world and I wanted to know every single part of it that I asked if I could do a stage in the kitchen, and they let me. So I spent a week in the kitchen, like all of our other stages did. And that was great because I got to see what goes on that side of the pass.
That's quite rare for someone to do that in front of house, I think, in my experience. So I think that's really good that you've done that.
Yeah.
And most restaurants would allow someone to do that as well.
For sure. And I think like now as well, we're starting to see more of a crossover. I think that the more that you can diversify in terms of skills in any industry is really important. So that's what I did. And then eventually I ended up working the pass at Tet. So I used to expedite, which was a pretty big job because we had a lot of tables, degustation menu, a lot of dietary requirements, and it's just about knowing where everyone's at, and that was a great job. I loved that.
Yeah, and where did you go to after that?
After I left Tetsuya's, I went to Bentley Restaurant and Bar. So I guess at that point I really wanted to understand about increase my knowledge on wine, because I didn't really get that at Tetsuya's unless you were a sommelier and had been for a long time. It was really hard to break into being a som. So Nick Hildebrandt, who's one of the best sommeliers in the country, has a restaurant called Bentley Restaurant and Bar. So I went to work for him, and again, like my mind was opened because I came from a family who doesn't really drink wine. My mum doesn't drink at all, really, and my dad just drinks whatever's available. So we didn't really have a culture of, opening a bottle of wine. I'd never really been exposed to that. So to then taste these amazing wines and learn about grape varietals and how to pair wine with food, it felt like incredibly luxurious to me. It wasn't something that I was ever exposed to, but it was fun and exciting and delicious. Yes.
So when now that you would employ people and young waiters and waitresses in restaurants, what do you look for in a young person? What would someone inspiring to be a waitress, a waiter in a restaurant? What do you look for?
I guess it's really hard because it's difficult to see what hospitality is, what true hospitality is. I think when you're looking for a chef, you can sort of look for somebody that has knife skills or, that has that basic foundation. It's really hard to see if somebody has a true sense of hospitality, but really it does come down to their passion and their willingness to learn. And I think that in terms of being a front of house person, it's about that openness, openness to being adaptable, to not being so set in your ways, to letting somebody else lead. I think that that's hard. We're called front of house, but I really think that we're the back of house. As you know, chefs are front and center of what we do in the food industry, and that's great, but you have to be open to be willing to take their lead, let them take the lead, and to be able to build something around that. So I'm looking for a team who wants to be part of a team that is not just I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm on my own, track and race and I'm just going to go for it. We've got to all work together. So I think that being able to multitask, attention to detail, they're all all the little skills that you need to know, but that willingness to take care of people and really show them a good time, be able to look after a stranger like they were your mum or they were your aunt or they're your grandfather. Being able to take care of people is something that's really special that you're able to gift somebody. It's easy to put a plate down in front of somebody, but can you give them a piece of yourself? And that's what I love about my job too. It's incredibly rewarding in that sense.
What does the word, you mentioned hospitality, what does hospitality mean to you? You package it for someone who's not sure of the whole restaurant experience. I mean, you've worked in the best, and you are the best in the business.
Like I said, I think it's as simple as caring for somebody. Somebody once told me that great service is making sure your guest's water is always topped up, whereas great hospitality is making sure that you never want that person to be thirsty. So it's the intent. It's the difference between the intent. You can either go through the motions, but real hospitality, true hospitality has to come from the heart, and it's about caring for somebody on a deeper level than just doing what's required.
And a question I like to ask everyone, have you ever wanted to throw it in and give it up and go back to something else?
Yes, definitely.
What's kept you in it then? Why?
My team and the people around me, I've realised that I guess I have a purpose. Hospitality has really given me that. And it is like Josh said, a lot of people say, you work late hours, you work when everybody else is having a good time, you're on your feet a lot. So there are a lot of things, but I always think what's the alternative? Do I want to sit at a desk by myself without my team, not looking after somebody that's face to face that I can engage with? Do I want to sit on the phone? Is that really what I want? Probably not. Am I willing to, maybe having to polish this cutlery is a little bit boring, but that as a boring job is way better to me than sitting in front of a computer, in front of a screen all day and typing emails. That does not sound like a fun job to me. And I guess the people and the relationships that I've built over the years has kept me going. Yeah. And I think also the future of our industry is incredibly exciting. Yeah. And the fact that front of house is it is really kind of coming to the front as part of like what we do in the industry.
Yeah.
Again, it's kept me going.
Yeah, I mean, there has been a bit of negativity in our business of late, but I think what you've done and Josh done, there's so many positive stories to it. Last question for me, what's next? What do you do? Do you want your own business? Do you want your own restaurant?
No, I don't think so. Like I look at the restaurant as Mamafuku Sayobo as my restaurant.
Yeah.
Paul and I...
Paul Carmichael is the chef there,
yeah.
And he's an incredible chef.
He is an incredible chef, and we look after that restaurant as if it was ours. And any restaurant that I've ever worked at, I've looked at as if it was my business. So I don't think that you have to own your own business to be able to make it yours. I work with Mamafuku at large. So this year I travelled to New York and spent time at all of our restaurants there. My boss is Dave Chang, who is incredible to work for. So, you know, to think that you have to have your own business in order for it to be yours, I don't think is necessarily, you know, that important.
Yeah.
It's just about finding something that you feel that you can express yourself in and that you can throw yourself into and that you can own and love. And like, for me, this is enough.
Beautiful, and you've done an incredible job, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Any questions for Kylie? Anyone? Come on. She's the best in the business. Yes.
Do you speak another language? And do you find from front of house having another language is helpful? Sorry, I'm ex-phys ed, I can project.
Yeah. Do you speak another language?
No, I don't. Actually, I can understand Tagalog, which is a Filipino language, a little bit, but definitely not enough to get me through like a service. Yes, if you're bilingual, excellent. But I mean, I think I've done okay and I haven't really had that need. But we do have a lot of staff who either can speak Mandarin or Cantonese, Italian, French. So having that as an extra skill is great. I think I've probably tried to overcompensate with that with other skills that I can do, like being able to jump in the kitchen if I need to.
Incredible.
Yeah, and I think with anything, it's being able to diversify and being adaptable.
Wonderful. Big round of applause and thank you very much.